Hi, everyone. In this video, I want to talk about the three separate visits that are typically included in the foundational assessment. So, within the Origins Incubator program, what we teach is the foundational assessment is basically the initial consultation. But typically, the foundational assessment does just that. It does a assessment of the individual, where they are now, where their health is now, like who they are, where they are in their health journey, the goals that they have. And so this appointment is an opportunity for you to really dig into both their internal environment, which is basically assessing from a medical standpoint, their labs and things like that, and then external environment, which I think of as their lifestyle pillars and any other environmental impacts on them. So where I have found a lot of providers that we help, where they struggle is that when they're finishing up the foundational assessment, there's a lot that needs to be handled after that appointment or even at the end of that appointment. And our providers are typically in micro practices, small practices, and they're having to wear a lot of different. And so within this appointment, they might need to jump into admin, or they feel like they need to jump into sales, or they need to jump into like health coach, meaning supporting implementation and things like that. And what we teach and what I hope that you get from this is that having three different appointment types is very, very helpful here because your time with the patient during this initial consultation is a very important time for you to establish trust, establish hope, create a roadmap or a hypothesis or theory moving forward about how you would approach their case just on a more ongoing care level. And so if at the end of that appointment, you're all of a sudden jumping to sales or you're jumping to admin, like this is where you find all these things and this is how this is going to work. Or you jump into, okay, so let me show you how to execute this low inflammatory diet. The patient is like, they're just kind of shifting. You're both shifting roles that entire time. And I just think it's very difficult to do. And most of us have a hard time doing it. And frankly, it's not very effective, is my experience. So these are the three appointments. You have the foundational assessment. And then about 3 days later, you have what's called a care plan review. And then about a week after that, that's what we call the implementation visit. So let's break down each of these. So foundational assessment, 3 days later, care plan review, about a week later, implementation visit. Now, what I want you to realize is that if you are a micro practice and you don't have a health coach right now, or you don't have an administrative assistant, you will be executing these three appointments. So let me explain the roles of each one, and then you will decide in your business, in your practice, depending on your stage of growth, who's going to be filling those roles. So the foundational assessment is medicine, right? So it's going to be the main provider is going to be having that appointment. Care plan review is administrative. So it could either be you serving an administrative role or your health coach serving an administrative role, but that role needs to be very clear to the patient in the beginning of that appointment. The third appointment is that implementation visit where you are basically helping the patient bring to life and like move your plan from theory actually into action. If you don't have a health coach yet, then that will be you in that visit. Or if you have a health coach, then that would be the visit that they're taking care of, but it's called the implementation visit. So let's kind of break down each one. So the foundational assessment is a 90-minute appointment where we do a deep dive into your health. So we're going to be reviewing your labs. We'll perform a history and physical. I'm going to get very clear on your goals, your health goals and your lifestyle goals. And then we're going to take a step back and I'm really going to speak to you about the imbalances that I'm seeing both in your internal and external environments and what's impacting your current state of health and how we will move forward in an uncovering process, working together longer term. What patients need to understand in the foundational assessment is that this is not episodic care. Like we are not addressing everything today, nor will we address everything in the first follow-up visit. This is what integrative lifestyle, functional medicine, whatever we want to call it, what this is it's basically transitioning from this episodic model into a more of a longitudinal, like this is an uncovering where we are working on multiple things at once and we're building the body back up and we're really searching for this patient's unique drivers to their health. So this is why in the foundational assessment, what I tell our providers is really stay in the education theory realm, like really give your personal assessment of where is this patient? Why are they in their current state of health? And what will it take to get them, to living a life that they desire and they want? I would tell if you're the provider at the foundational assessment in the beginning, give them that framework. Like the point of this visit is blank, is for you to leave with an understanding. Like that, to me, that is a successful visit. Is you understand your body, you understand your history, you understand these different factors that are impacting your health. And then you have a clear idea of what needs to occur moving forward for you to live a healthier life. Now, how you do it, we're going to cover that in the implementation visit. So I don't want you to worry. We're going to have a completely separate visit on like how we're going to move forward. So this kind of energy in the foundational assessment I find to be very impactful, very helpful for both the provider and patient. And it feels very warm, very empathetic, just high connection. And then I'm going to talk about sales now also. So the way we transition out of the foundational assessment is we are, and I have a previous video talking about the 3 different buckets that patients typically fall into at the end of the FA so that they can have some awareness around that. But at the end of the FA, what I typically say is, okay, so once you explain everything, then I will say, I'm going to take about 1 to 2 days to really to write this up and make it clean for you. And for you to know as a provider, there was no way that I finished the foundational assessment note that same day. So I gave myself 3 days ultimately. And so I would tell them it's going to take me 3 days to make sure this is very clean because typically during my foundational assessment appointments, I had a whiteboard, I was kind of writing diagrams, or I was taking notes on a paper next to them so they could see it, or if it was virtual, I was writing notes so they could see. So I wanted them the foundational assessment, I really wanted them to feel like we're in this together, and I wanted them to see my thought process. Even if I already kinda had done a lot of that work prior, I wanted them to understand my thought process of how I was assessing their case. 'Cause I think that that's really helpful for them to realize. So therefore, because I just had a bunch of notes, I would say, I'm gonna clean all this up. So if you do have an assistant or if you have a separate person that can take on that admin role, then you would just mention that. You say, "In 3 days, you're gonna sit down with Sally, she's my administrative assistant, and she is going to walk through the plan, and she's gonna make sure the logistics are clear. Like, where do I get these supplements? How do I order these labs? Where do I find my plan? How do I message Dr. Mattioli if I need to? So I don't want you worried about any of that now. We're going to set that appointment today so you have it on the calendar, but I don't want you worried about the logistics now. And I'm going to move forward and talk about that appointment in just a moment. So that's how I typically ended it. If a patient was like, I know I want to move forward with the ongoing care, like I'm ready to move forward today, then I, of course, would do that process. I would help them move forward with that and we would take care of that. What's important is that you aren't shifting into heavy sales right then. You're letting them know that in 3 days, all of that is going to be taken care of. And what I would typically say is that if this is something you want to move forward with, if this plan is what you want to execute with, then we'll discuss how to move forward with our ongoing care model. And that's how I would leave it. So then 3 days later, you have the care plan review. This is typically a 30-minute appointment. I recommend that this is a virtual visit because it might be difficult for the patient to come back in for just 30-minute appointment. If they want to do it in person, fine. But typically this is an admin role. So again, if you're just starting, this might be you. And the reason it's important for it to be just 3 days later is because we don't want there to be any confusion that this is like a foundational assessment part 2. Like we are not doing a history, we are not doing a physical. So in the care plan review, you need to state your role in the beginning. Like so if my patient is David and he's coming back, I'll say, welcome back, David. The purpose of this appointment is for us to review the plan from your foundational assessment 3 days ago. And I want to make sure you know where to find your supplements, how to message me if you have any questions, make sure that the plan is clear and you know where to find it. And then I'm also going to be discussing, making sure it's very clear the next steps to move forward in terms of advanced testing and workup and what ongoing care might look like for you. Sound good? Great. So then there's a very clear process in the care plan where we start with a tour of the portal and where they might find the plan. What I wanna make sure is clear, though, is that we do not wanna share this plan ahead of time to the patient. The patient gets the plan at the care plan review. If you give it to them ahead of time, then they're gonna just have their plan, and they may not show up with the care plan review, which is the invitation to move forward with the ongoing care model. So do not send them your plan ahead of time. Tell them that they will receive the plan at the care plan review. So this is the first time they're seeing the plan. So you're going to review it with them step by step. This is what Dr. Mattioli is recommending for nutrition, sleep, exercise, nervous system, all the things. These are the supplements that she's recommending. And then I always end the plan with this is her hypothesis of the biggest drivers impacting your health right now. So it might be like we need to start with balancing the hormones or doing a deeper dive into gut, or there might be a lot of metabolic health that needs to be more regulated and they have insulin resistance and things like that. So you say, Dr. Mattioli really identified your metabolic health as an area of most concern right now, and that'll really move the needle most for your health. So she's recommending these additional tests or workup, this additional support. So you're not only giving them their current plan, but you're also forward pacing them a bit for what to look forward to moving forward. And then at that point, the admin role, whoever's filling that role, would then say, is this something you want to move forward with at this time? So it's a very soft, easy ask. And then the patient has the option to be like, yeah, I do want to move forward with that. And then you move right into the membership model. Okay, so then this is how we will support you moving forward. And then you explain how it works. And then you make sure that they understand scheduling, portal, things like that, just kind of like logistics. At the end of the care plan review, then you say, okay, great. Now we're going to set an appointment for our implementation visit, which is going to be in a week. The reason we have this implementation visit is because I want to make sure that you're able to implement this plan into your life. And the reason it's a week later is I want to make sure you have time to sit with it, to look through it, to understand it, and you can bring your concerns to that implementation visit. So now, fast forward to a week, again, this can be virtual or in person, however it works. But now, I mean, it's also really nice because if David, the patient, didn't move forward at the care plan review, now you have another ask at the implementation visit. So that implementation visit goes deeper, right, into the plan. So they might pick like 2 areas of the lifestyle pillars that they're going to focus on and exactly how are we going to do this. So the patient will get deeper education, deeper handouts, just understanding like what they need, what their concerns are, what the barriers are, what their obstacles are. It could be with you, right? Or it could be with the health coach. But again, the role is stated in the beginning. And so if it's you, if you're just starting out, then this is kind of how you differentiate that. Like this is your implementation visit. The purpose of this visit is like a successful visit is you are very clear how to implement these areas for your health. And then at the end of that visit, then the health coach or you, whoever's executing it, has another opportunity. You can say, do you have any questions? Do you have any further concerns? I will see you, or we will have an implementation visit after every single one of Dr. Mattioli's visit, because it's very important to us that you not only have the plan, but you're also able to execute the plan. And that is my job after each of those visits. And we can just support you in any way we can. And then we also have these group classes or these education series, whatever additional things are in the membership that support the patient in these behavioral lifestyle changes. This is what the health coach will highlight, or whoever is executing this visit will highlight. So the patient really understands the value. So you have another ask. So is the ongoing care model something you want to move forward with at this time? If they say no, fine. Then that person will say, okay, well, you have about 30 days to decide. And we will remind you a few times over the next few weeks because we don't want you to lose this opportunity. But if you decide not to move forward at this time, then you'll be receiving a discontinuation of care letter, and we're going to transfer your care back over to your primary AT. So the patient needs to understand what happens next, because a lot of times when that language is stated, and it's to protect both you and the patient, because we don't want to have a patient that we did initial consult with a year ago, and then they're all of a sudden in our portal describing symptoms, and we don't really have any knowledge of this patient, and they're not a current patient for us. So that's why it's really important that these boundaries are clear and the patient knows what to expect. It's not cruel, it's just transparent. So I think that whoever's executing the implementation visit, for them to be able to say, I will, if you don't move forward, you will get a discontinuation care letter. We'll make sure that you're able to see your back to your primary care team to follow up on these things. And so that is what the foundational assessment is. It's actually 3 visits in 1 minimum. If you have any other independent contractors, some people have like a mind body coach or they have a therapist, that should all be included in that foundational assessment. The reason being is because this is where you're showcasing what it would be like to be in your practice. So if you have all of the support in the ongoing care, but your patient doesn't meet them until they're a member, they don't get a sense of the value at that point. So this is why I encourage you to have one price, but include all of the different visits, at least 3, the foundational assessment, care plan, implementation visit. You can fill each of those roles. But I recommend for each visit, like, stay in your role. Don't bleed them, because it can be overwhelming for both you and your patient.